Hello, welcome to the edition of our show. My name is Business, and as we always say, business means money. Stability in business means a lot of money, but also under circumstances, extraordinary circumstances like the one we are in right now, the COVID-19 and the Omicron variant, the mutant Omicron variant that appeared. Well, lots of economies are ailing under that because of restrictions definitely put into it, even travel restrictions put into quarantines. And this is a lot of impediments to the development of any country, although some economies are struggling very hard, others are just reeling under the effect of the COVID-19 and the Omicron right now. Well, Egypt has been steadfast, working very hard and trying to be standing and fighting the effects of the COVID-19. And there is there are international expectations for the Egyptian economy, the growth rate of the Egyptian economy to jump from 5.2% to 5.2% in 2022. Well, Egypt successfully actually implemented an ambitious by all international economic institutions and was able to put top indications of the Egyptian economy in the Middle East, Africa, and even has a prominent economic implementation of a number of major initiatives and basically the standing life for them. Well, there's always in face of the COVID-19 and the Omicron. No one knows how things are. How the economies are going to be affected more for this long time of restrictions that are put on different issues and health-wise and so on and so forth. So increasing growth rates here, attracting more national, regional and international investments and enhancing the ability of the Egyptian economy to withstand crises. These are most important or prominent indicators that top the reports of the international institutions, giving more indicators for the coming years. Well, talk about the international monetary institutions and just expected Egypt to grow the Middle East in 2016, stressing that it helped curb the foreign exchange crisis and revive the investor that here expectations for future and development. Margaret according to which Egypt is among the best countries in the region in the long-term economic risk index with a score of 60.1 points, while Egypt advanced 20 places in the index in the world within a year, which is really great, and this is a great development. Well, we'll talk more of that, but we're going for a report. We'll be coming back shortly.
Egypt successfully implemented an ambitious economic program witnessed by all international economic institutions and was able to put an end to the at raising the standard of living of citizens and achieving a decent life for them. Increasing growth rates, attracting more national, regional, and international investment, and enhancing the ability of the Egyptian economy to withstand crisis are among the most prominent indicators that top the reports of international institutions amid expectations of achieving more positive indicators in the coming years. Bloomberg agency expected Egypt to lead the growth rates for the Middle East and North Africa region in 2022 at a rate of 5.2%, while it expected Egypt to achieve a stronger jump in its economic growth rate for 2022 compared to a growth rate of 3.3% during 2021. Bloomberg praised the economic reform program launched in 2016, stressing that it helped curb the foreign exchange crisis and revive investor confidence. Bloomberg indicated that Egypt outperformed Saudi Arabia, which is expected to grow at a rate of 15%, Kuwait at 4.75%, at 4.45%, Israel at 4.4%, Qatar at 4.1%, Morocco at 3.7%, Tunisia at 3.5%, and Oman of growth 3.15%, and Lebanon 2.45%. The report also monitored Fitch expectations that Egypt would achieve the growth rate in the Middle East and North Africa came in the first place. The rate 5% came followed by Libya at a rate of 4.58%, then Oman at 4.16%, the United Arab Emirates at 4.15%, Qatar at 4.14%, and Israel at 4.11%. In a related context, Tunisia came in 9th place with an expected growth rate of 4.09%, followed by Lebanon at 3.94%, Iraq at 3.63%, Morocco at 3.43%, Iran at 3.06%, and Algeria at 2.36%. Fitch expected that the long-term growth rate in Egypt will be more moderate compared to previous years, explaining that this is due to the reforms that helped stabilize the economy and the return of attracting large amounts of foreign investments. Also, according to Fitch, Egypt is among the best countries in the region in the long-term economic risk index with a score of 60.1 points, while Egypt advanced 20 places in the index in the world within a year, as it ranked 79th in the report of the first quarter of 2021. The report indicated that Saudi Arabia scored 65.4 points, the United Arab Emirates 60.7 points, Kuwait 60.2 points, Qatar 54.6 points, Oman 49.7 points, Jordan 48.7 points, Bahrain 47.7 points, Morocco 47.6 points, and Algeria 47 points. It's worth noting that the global average value of the long-term economic risk index is 52.6, while the average value of the Middle East and North Africa region is 47.1, noting that the higher value of the index reflects the lowering of the country's economic risks.
We're back again to Money is Business. We have online our guest online, Mr. Ayub Mahmoud Ayub, former Minister of Trade Commissioner. Sir, would you please shed the light on the challenges that Egypt is facing right now with the Omicron variant coming and the COVID-19? Especially that Egypt tried very hard to the resilience of the economy to make it steadfast, and actually it just the growth rate jumped, but not as was expected due to the COVID-19, and we don't know what will happen now with the Omicron variant. And so how what are the challenges, and how are we coping with that up till now?
The challenges are formidable because we have COVID all over the world. At the same time, the Egyptian economy has performed very well despite these great challenges which we were affected with it like other economies in the world. But in the other case, we find that the exports for this year increased more than the last year, 2020. This is now number one. Number one, growth rate in the 3 quarters of this calendar year was 3.4 higher than the growth rate last year. Third, the exports which increased were mainly in agriculture and also in agro-industries and industrial products. This means that the performance of the economy as a whole was far better than expected. Why I say far better than expected? Because many other economies in the region and worldwide has deteriorated and the growth rate was with minus or did not increase by this 3.4% which we have seen during this calendar year. One of the main reasons for that is that the wise management of the supply of money, the credit which we have made in international market, and also the savings of Egyptians and the interest rate which was quite lucrative for many, encouraged many people to invest inside Egypt. Land acquisition or in the new projects which were promulgated and initiated by the government. One of it is in the power sector. Power stations, all these are components of the gradual and strong positive this year is that stability, I mean security and stability in the country, encouraged many investors to come to the market and begin and initiate new projects in Egypt during this year. This all helped to change the mood of many people who were alarmed by the deterioration in terms of trade, deterioration in the international markets, and deterioration in the foreign trade. This enabled them to find support in the Egyptian market. When the Egyptian Omicron variant, which we have seen now, or COVID-19, which we are seeing almost 2 years, more than 2 years now, what matters is how I face it, how I deal with it, how can I cope with it, and also we are seeing in the subway stations, hundreds and thousands of people are going to have vaccination. That is the Ministry of Health is vaccinating people with the vaccine.
Dr. Mahmoud Mohieldin, Executive Director of the International Monetary Fund, participated in the activities of the third edition of the Egypt Economic Summit. He indicated that the global economy is expected to have growth rates of 6%, but with the reviews of a number of international institutions, the growth rate reached 5 and 5.9%, and there is another review that may bring the growth rate a lower level than that. He stressed that the reason for the decline in the global growth rate is the corona pandemic and the recent development accompanying it, with the emergence of the Omicron, in addition to the problems related to global supply chains, their confusion and their inability to meet the demand that returned with a force faster than production capacities. In light of the inflationary wave sweeping the world, Mohieldin stressed that the inflation may be high, and that developed countries should take measures to deal with inflation by adopting monetary policies that lead to a decrease in global inflation rates. On the other hand, the biggest problem lies in the inflation associated with middle-income countries, which constitute a third of the world's economy and comprise 75% of its population and 62% of the world's poor live there, and there are countries that do not enjoy the advantages of developed countries with regard to cheap import in local currencies. On the other hand, they find that after the pandemic, they see the phenomena of restricted money flows to developing countries and emerging markets, which turned into negative numbers, explaining that the Central Bank of Egypt aims to have the inflation rate at 7%, with an increase or decrease within 2%, which has actually been achieved in previous years and months, the good times. Mahmoud Mohyeldin also recommended the need to launch economic programs that give priority to human life and health safety, and at the same time provide continued support for citizens' livelihoods by providing job opportunities. He pointed out that emerging markets should take into account the impact of monetary tightening in developed countries, with the possibility of higher interest rates and their impact on.
Still, that we are still reading under the COVID-19, the Omicron, and we don't know what kind of regulations are going to come out of that.
Actually, when we talk about to what extent Egypt has succeeded to address COVID-19, we have to refer back to the economic reforms that started in Egypt 2016, and Egypt has done quite well, and it was a successful economic reform since we have achieved the stabilization regarding macroeconomic stabilization, as well as addressing the most important challenges that was, addressed in the Egyptian economy, such as unemployment and inflation. And Egypt, before COVID-19, was expected to achieve a rate of growth 5.6. Unfortunately, when COVID hit the economy, the rate of growth has decreased to the year of the COVID witnessed 1.9 rate of growth, and then this year we have a rate of growth about 3.9. So there is a progress in our, economic growth, and then we are expecting, inshallah, next year, 2022, to achieve 5.6. What Egypt has done to achieve such a result, I believe that trying to manage between addressing the pandemic from one perspective and carrying out economic activities, but we lost transportation, we lost tourism, during this period, despite all the potentialities for tourism for Egypt. Still, we have workers' remittances that are approximately $30 billion, and the Suez Canal revenue is still doing well as foreign indirect investment. Nowadays, for the coming year, inshallah, we hopefully achieve a better result in the tourism. But what is significantly needs to be approached is transferring from the financial and monetary reform into the structural reform. This means that we have to take care of our real sectors of the economy, such as agriculture and industrial sector, and with information technology, because we all know that Egypt is going substantially towards digitalization, starting from the government, and in all our aspects. Due to the pandemic, we witnessed increasing the size of electronic marketing and trade, as well as, electronic education and so on. So there is a tendency, heavy tendency towards digitalization in Egypt, which is spurring, a lot of economic activities and giving opportunities for our youth to start their own business. We have seen lately, youth that have developed their projects in information technology and manage even to internationalize their project, which is great actually. Still, we have to do better regarding, addressing the structural reform, and we know quite well the main challenges confronting enhancing our competitiveness in the industrial sector. We have the goal of achieving export of $100 billion. Still, our performance is not, despite the progress in our rate of export, still, our export is barely going to exceed 30 billion, which is actually far away from our potentialities.
Yeah.
As well as attracting foreign direct investments. When we talk about the new areas due to mega projects like the Suez Canal area and Upper Egypt, the new valley, all these areas are full of opportunities as very profitable potentialities of projects that may attract foreign direct investment. We have seen some progress in this area, but still we have to enhance our environment for investment. Still, we have some challenges like skills of labor. The productivity of Egyptian labor is still minimal, very low, and we have to upgrade the skills of our labor. So we need to work. We need to work on economic empowerment of poor people, concentrating on women. So a lot of challenges. We have to work harder and harder to address such challenges.
Definitely. Dr. Yom Hamaqi, thank you very much for being with us. And we're back again, and we are going to have now the weekly report.
The central bank announced in a statement the fixing of interest on deposits and lending for the 9th time in a row to match market expectations. The central bank kept its average interest at 8.25% on deposits and 9.25% on lending. The current stabilization decision is the latest outcome of the committee's meetings to determine the new interest rates on deposit and lending during the year 2021. The session developments in the date palm sector within the activities of the Food Africa exhibition discussed the most important problems that direct this industry in Egypt, knowing that Egypt is the largest producer of dates in the world, and therefore this sector greatly enhances the Egyptian economy and received the attention and care of the government and President Sisi. Engineer Khalid Al-Haggan, head of the Dates and Fresh Dates Committee at the Export Council, said Egypt has about 15 million palm trees that produce 1,700,000 tons of dates annually, and there is a continuous increase in production, and that 50% of the production is ranked dates, and the volume of dry production reached 17% of the production volume. Marsa Alam International Airport received 12 international flights carrying nearly 12 Ukrainian, German, Swiss and Dutch nationalities among 68 flights arriving at the airport this week. The flights scheduled during the week revealed that among the arrival flights were 2 flights from the Netherlands, 4 from Italy, 5 from the Czech Republic, 13 from Poland, 24 from Ukraine and 2 from Switzerland. Also this week, 3 domestic flights arrived from Cairo Airport, a flight from Moldova, another from Belarus, where the tourist hotels in Marsa Alam are witnessing a state of tourism boom. The Turkish Central Bank cut the interest rate by 1% last Thursday to 14% as the lira continues to collapse against the dollar. On the other hand, the Turkish lira fell by 4.8% against the dollar during last Thursday's trading, bringing the price of the dollar to 15.38 lira, losing nearly half of its value since the beginning of 2021. Inflation rates continued to record high levels in Turkey, with annual inflation reaching 21.3% last November. Oil prices rose last Thursday amid a rise in consumer demand for petroleum products in the United States to the highest level on the one hand, and Omicron threats to reduce global oil consumption on the other. Brent crude futures grew 80 cents or 1.1% to record $74.68 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures increased 81 cents or 1.14% to 71.68. This comes in the wake of the U.S. Federal Reserve keeping interest rates between 0 and 0.25% unchanged, and its tendency to reduce its monthly asset purchases by $30 billion. Economic data showed that British merchandise trade lost £12.6 billion last October as a result of Britain's exit from the European Union, or Brexit, with Britain's exports and imports declining compared to the corresponding countries. The Centre for European Reform said that Britain's exit from the European Union led to a 15.7% reduction in Britain's trade in goods during last October. The cost of leaving the European Union has ranged between 11 and 16% since Britain formally left the European Union in January. The International Monetary Fund sees growing concerns about the sustainability of global debt, with interest rates starting to rise in several countries around the world. In its report, the International Monetary Fund indicated that global debt rose to a near record high of $226 trillion last year, reaching 256% of global GDP, an increase of 28% on an annual basis, in the largest rise since World War II. The report explained that raising interest rates faster than expected may put pressure on heavily debtor countries and may force governments and companies to reduce debt and spending, which will harm economic growth.
Welcome back again. And before we end our show, let me just remind you that Egypt is hosting the summit, the climate change summit. And of course, we have to deal with the climate change that is right now a big challenge all over the world. Let me just also mention that Egypt has the most important projects, the solar energy project in the south of the country. There is also the wind energy project, and there is the follow-up at the highest level of the government, to the president, following up the funding of the hydrogen green hydrogen, which is required definitely, which is one of the most important energy sources and required, it requires a lot of investment. Of course, we then also in Egypt, not only the government is working for that, but also the government needs the help of the private sector in such mega projects, definitely. And well, before leaving, let me say we are waiting for all the countries that are going to be participating, and hopefully that something really crystallizes out of the summit, and we know how to deal successfully with the climate change problem. Well, I'm Nermin Nazim signing off, also wishing all the world the best, and since we go into the year 2022, and we are all hopes, everybody's all hopes that it will be a good year. Well, a wonderful year, actually, a change from what we witnessed in the previous years. Well, as we end, may God bless Egypt, God bless Egyptians, God bless our president, our army, our white army, and our police. And as we always quote from the Holy Quran, ادخلوا مصر إن شاء الله آمنين, enter Egypt, God willing, safe. And from the Holy Bible, Mubarak Sha'bi Misr, blessed be Egypt, my people. I'm signing off. Nermin Nazim. Goodbye for now.